interesting one is, and the question was raised this week by an agent, of a vendor that does not want a potential purchaser to be a purchaser, does not want them on their property, and has a whole range of reasons, none of which fit in the Discrimination Act, or the anti-discrimination legislation. So it's just for a whole range of reasons that they don't want them in there. Now, can the agent not let that person through to inspect the property? Can they not do certain things? So I think the first place we need to jump for this is the rules of conduct, which of course is Schedule 1 in the Property Stock and Business Agents Regulation. And we have a look at that, and yes, the agent needs to act in the best interest of the client. Who's their client? Their vendor. Are they acting in the best interest of the vendor? Well, the vendor would need to put in writing that they actually instruct the agent not to show that person through the property, not to, look at selling the person that property. And this, of course, would be exactly the same situation if a landlord did not want to lease a property to a specific or prospective tenant. So now the next part of that is, but what if sight unseen this prospective purchaser made an offer on the property? Well, as we know, you must pass on all offers as an agent. You must pass on all offers to your vendor, unless the vendor specifically puts in writing that they do not want, offers over a certain amount, or they could potentially put it in writing that they don't want offers from, they will not accept offers from specific purchasers. Probably not necessary, because as an agent you can say, well, look, there is an offer here from this party that you do not want to sell to. Where do you sit on this? But just remember, it's just an offer. They haven't been through the property. So, this is going to be my theme on issues for a while, which is, this is about your documentation. It's about getting written instructions from your vendor. You're not doing anything illegal or in breach of the legislation if you tell a potential purchaser, a potential tenant, that you do not have the authority from the owner of the property to allow them to inspect the property as a potential purchaser or as a potential tenant. So in fact, you have specific instructions not to let them through. And that's it. When they ask why, you're not asking your landlord for reasons why. It's just, these are the instructions from your property owner. So at this point, your client. So who is your client? When is your client not a client? Well, at this point, that potential purchaser is not a client. Your client, as always, your fiduciary duty goes back to your property owner, and that person has given you the instructions on how to deal with the property transactions with their specific property. So guys, not every property transaction is straightforward, and there are always lots of backstories and reasons as to, whether it's neighbours or whether it's, people from past relationships or whatever it happens to be that somebody does not want to sell or lease their property to them. So long as you have the right instructions and you are following those rules of conduct, you look at those 19 rules of conduct and say, well, am I breaching any of those if I go down this path? No. Then, odds on you're down the right path in terms of acting in the best interest of your client, and remembering that. And just remembering that your paperwork is correct. And when I say paperwork, that's fine to have it as emails and in an electronic version. Make sure that that is what you actually have on record if and when you are questioned about this issue. If somebody gets very irate about, your potential purchaser or your potential tenant, gets upset and claims that it could actually be discriminatory, that they're not being allowed into this property. And, as far as you're concerned, it is not. And that is what your records are going to say within your system. So just make sure you get your documentation correct.